what is an ORM and how does JPA Hibernate work in a Spring application? So there are three key terms here: ORM, JPA and Hibernate. Before continuing further watching this video, let me know in the comment section whether you know these terms or not. One thing, if you're watching this video, you are already aware like how to connect database and a Spring Boot and work with the databases, right? And I'm sure you have come across these words ORM, JPA and Hibernate. The question is how they are related to each other. That is the key. This is pretty basic thing. While we are working with complex things, we just overlook these things, like not care about it like what they meant, but what they're offering, we're just interested in that only. So let me know in the comment section how many of you know about it. So that will be interesting to know. Okay, so moving ahead in the video, let's see the ORM. That is the first thing. What is this one? ORM stands for Object Relational Mapping. That is there. And what is this? It is a programming technique that facilitates the conversion of data between incompatible systems. What are those incompatible systems? This is the object oriented programming language and relational databases. So you see here you have our application, we have our applications, correct? And here this needs to connect with the database. So if I do not have any technique, I do not have any library, so I have to write everything that is needed to connect with the database. There will be a lot of boilerplate code and connectivity and all that thing. I have to do that one. And those incompatibility, I have to make them compatible by writing the things our own. So ORM framework is something that facilitates and help us in avoiding those complexities and gives us easy interface to connect with that database. It allows developers to work with the database records as if they were objects in the programming language, abstracting the underlying SQL query. So if I just take an example of the MySQL, there is a table employee, and in the table employee we have couple of attributes: ID, name, address and age. These attributes I can map it directly in a Java objects, right? So there is a mapping. You can have a mind map how it looks like in object and what it looks like in a table, and that mapping can work smoothly, interrelated. Whatever interaction that we need, we can do that. What are the benefits of this ORM? Simplified data manipulation. Whatever create, read, update, delete I want to do, that I can do that with a single line of codes. Automated CRUD operations, create, read, update, delete is automatically provided by the ORM implementations. Maintainability, it gives us, like, it helps us reduce a lot of boilerplate code that improves the maintainability. Database independence, whether I have to connect with the MySQL, I have to connect with Oracle, I have to connect with PostgreSQL, it's just about the configuration that I have to make, and this is going to work out of the box then. So that is all about the ORM, object relation mapping. I hope you got the understanding. Moving ahead, next we have JPA. JPA stands for the Java Persistence API. This provides guidelines for mapping Java objects to relational database tables. So what is the difference between ORM and JPA? ORM is a framework that gives set of rules how incompatible systems can work all together, right? JPA, Java Persistence API, further gives an interface, a contract, a specification that can be implemented to connect these two unrelated entities basically. So what are the core concepts around this JPA? So first, these are the things. We create entities in JPAs. Entities are the Java classes that represent tables in database. Entity manager, this interface used for interacting with the persistence context, which manages entity instances. So persistence context, that is in here, a cache of entity instances which ensures that within a transaction each entity is unique, and persistence unit is that configuration that I have to provide to connect with that particular database. So let's see this with an example code. So I have taken a screenshot of this one. So let's say this is the employee class. I have annotated it with that entity, so that marks it as an entity instance, and that is what it is mapped with the database table. So inside database, ID is going to be the attribute, that primary key. Name and departments are going to be the attributes of that table. How using this instance I have to interact with the database. So this is the employee service, and this is the entity manager that is there, and this is the annotation that is the persistence context, and this is the annotation that is the transactional. That means whatever is going to be executed in this scope is going to be transactional in nature. So if one operation is successful and other is not successful, all the operations will fail. So to like criteria of this complete method to be successful is that all the operations must be successful. So when we see that set line by line codes, when this line gets executed, entity manager dot find this employee dot class persistence, this whatever is written by this one, this employee instance, employee entity, this is managed by persistent context basically, and whatever operation that are performed by this one around this entity that we have, this is managed by persistence context. If anything goes wrong and everything is successful, that is to be managed by this persistent context only. And whenever we are coming out of this method, persistence context is automatically flushed out to have the memory and garbage collection and all that thing available. And the coming to the persistence unit that we have, so that is the persistence unit, the configuration that we provide for a particular database to connect with that entity applications that we have. So this is the configuration that when we are using Spring Boot, so with the Spring Boot we can have application.yaml or application.properties file. Application properties, this is how it is going to look like. And if we are using plain vanilla Spring, so this is the persistence.xml file that I have to provide the same information. So this is what that is forms the persistence unit, and this is about the persistence context. Moving ahead, Hibernate, it is a popular ORM framework that implements the JPA specification. So these keywords are connected now. So this ORM now connects with this Hibernate and this JPA in here that you can see. So in one line, it is a popular ORM framework that implements the JPA specification. And this Hibernate provides additional feature beyond the standard JPA. So we already saw what JPA provides, and on top of that it gives us lazy eager loading, caching, criteria, API and custom types. And the architecture wise, these are the critical components: session, transaction, query. If I show you this diagram, this is a very high level diagram where we have this Java application. Here persistent objects gets created in the layer, and this is what the Hibernate is there. And Hibernate, we have configuration, we have session factory, session, transaction, query and criteria is there, and these are the features JDBC, JNDI, and this is the down the line we have this database that it needs to connect to. So this is at a very high level. So obviously it just what is Hibernate, it is answering what is Hibernate. There is a lot in Hibernate that you have to learn about. Again, the next thing, we understood ORM, JPA and Hibernate. So how this is going to be used in the Spring application. So just covering that one. So how the integration works. So Spring Data JPA is the dependency that I have to add. I have to add the configuration. I have to create the entity classes. Like we have the classes. I have to annotate them with the entity annotation to create the repositories that are going to extend or implement the interfaces that are going to be provided by the JPA and Hibernate. And transactions, transactions are going to be transaction annotation is going to be there to manage the transactions. What is the workflow that is going to look like? Entity creation is going to be there, that we just saw. Repository interface is going to there. Dependencies we are going to inject it. Database operation, create, read, update, delete, whatever we want to perform it. And transaction management with the transactional annotation. That is how the at high level this workflow and this integration looks like. If the question is straightforward, you have to, so just one line you can tell, and that will do the job. If you're looking for the demo and all that, there are already videos available. Go ahead and look for the Spring Boot Data JPA application. You will find that one on the same channel, Code Farm. So coming to the last slide, that we have follow-up questions around that. So when you have this question, while you are answering it, these are some of the questions that you can encounter. So make sure that you have gone through it and you have better understanding around this as well. Why use JPA over JDBC? Get the understanding. What are the difference between lazy and eager loading? How does Hibernate handle caching? What are the different types of mappings in JPA? What is n+1 select problem? How do you handle transactions in a Spring application using JPA Hibernate? What is the role of entity manager in JPA? How do you optimize performance in Hibernate? How does Hibernate manage the life cycle of an entity? What is JPQL? How does it different from the SQL? How do you perform batch processing in Hibernate? These are some of the follow-up questions that you must prepare. Just pause the video and go over these questions and make sure that you are able to answer that one. If not, check out the channel for these questions. There is a chance that they are already uploaded on the channel, or I'm going to provide the link in the description box at the GitHub page. Their answers will be available for these questions, and if it is not in the channel, so make sure that you prepare before going for the interview. I hope you found this useful. There are more videos coming in around the interview series, so make sure that you check that out. And if you like this video, don't forget to subscribe it, share it with your friends, and like the video. I'll see you in the next one. Till then, take care. Bye bye.